Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Brooke Bishop, and I work for GoDutch Realty. I've been working for GoDutch Realty for 12 years now. I'm located in the Grecia area, so the towns that I work are Grecia, Sarchi, Naranjo, Palmares, and San Ramon. Quite a few of the coffee towns west of San Jose. Generally, we're less than an hour from the international airport. It's a very agricultural area and lots of coffee farms, beautiful views, and cooler temperatures. Today, we're going to talk about, of course, Costa Rica, and we've already heard about immigration from Monica. So now you're going to hear about real estate from me, and most of you, if you're watching, have already considered Costa Rica, or you've actually chosen Costa Rica. But if there are some reasons to choose Costa Rica that you may or may not have considered, and my favorite thing about the country are the people. You read a lot about how friendly the people are, and it's true. They truly are very helpful, very friendly. It's not just in the guidebooks. The people are some of the nicest people, and it's contagious. I think living here has made me a nicer, better, more patient person, because it's really hard to be the one person. You don't want to be the one person complaining and angry about everything when you look around you and everybody else is, content and relaxed and not complaining about everything. So it's contagious. The people here are very, they're pura vida. They're really great people. It makes it a fun place to live. Maybe one of the reasons that they're so happy is because of the climate, because the climate is pretty near perfect just about wherever you are, especially if you like it a little bit cooler. You can be up in the mountains. The higher up you go, the cooler it gets, and the more precipitation you get generally, whether that's clouds or fog or rain. The lower you go, it gets hotter. So on the beaches, it can get up to be, it can get up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. In the area that I work, generally downtown Grecia is at about 3,000 feet, and Sarchi and Naranjo are the same altitude. They are probably low to mid 80s during the day and 60s at night. And the higher up you get in altitude, the cooler it gets. So at about 4,500 to 4,500 feet, you're looking at mid 70s. I don't recommend really going up to 5,000 or beyond, because it really does get very cloudy. It can be chilly. You may have days where you don't see the sun. And a lot of people ask, is the rainy season the same as the dry season? And essentially, yes. The difference between the rainy season and the dry season is that in the rainy season, it kind of gets overcast around noon, and then generally it rains for an hour and a half, and then it's over, and it's a nice, crisp, clear, beautiful afternoon. September and October are our rainiest times of the year, so that's when a lot of people like to go on vacation. Farmers markets, that in itself is probably a good reason to choose Costa Rica. Farmers markets are great here. Every town has one. They're usually twice a week, Fridays and Saturdays. Generally, they're Friday night and Saturday morning up until noon. It depends on how big the town is. But they're a lot of fun, and you can get fresh fruits and vegetables. Many of the farmers markets have organic areas now where you can buy organic fruits and vegetables, which are not a whole lot more expensive than regular fruits and vegetables. That's something I've noticed here. You can buy homemade tortillas. At the farmers market in Grecia, you can get bagels, you can get ciabatta bread, you can get fresh ground coffee, you can have lunch, fresh flowers are extremely inexpensive. So the farmers markets are definitely a reason to think about moving to Costa Rica. And no army, which I'm not going to go into a whole lot, but it does make for a much happier community. I will say that. Costa Ricans are proud that they put their money into education and healthcare, and it shows. We do have a very strong healthcare situation, which we'll talk about later in some of the questions. And we also have a great educational system. So that's where the extra money for No Army goes to. So now you've decided on Costa Rica, and you're not exactly sure where to go. You should do a lot of research online as much as you can before you come. And there are certain things that you need to think about, because living in Costa Rica is not the same as coming on vacation. You need to think about the climate. Do you want to be hot? Do you want to be cooler? Do you want to be right in the middle? The beautiful thing about Costa Rica is that there are microclimates, and you can find your perfect climate. So as long as you know who to ask and how to get close to what you're looking for, whether it's mid 70s, low 70s, or even cooler, or if you want hotter, then you'd be down at the beach. But you can pretty much find your perfect climate here. Amenities. Certain areas of Costa Rica have a lot more amenities than others. If you're near the Central Valley, then you have access to pretty much everything that Costa Rica could possibly have. And by amenities, I'm talking about quality healthcare with bilingual doctors. I'm talking about an abundance of grocery stores where you can find different kinds of food. I'm talking a selection of different bilingual lawyers. Most every community in Costa Rica right now, I think, has yoga and things like that for exercise. Costa Ricans really are very healthy people. They take very good care of their bodies. So yoga would not be considered an amenity. I think you can get that just about anywhere in Costa Rica, but things that are going to be important to you in your everyday life. If you like to cook a lot, then you don't want to get too far away from some of the specialty stores where you can find fun cheeses. If you're a vegetarian, then the health food stores are going to have a lot of things that you're looking for, but not all throughout the country. Accessibility. Are you going to have a car? Are you going to rely on public transportation? Are you going to need to be traveling out of the country a lot? If so, you may want to be closer to the airport. And of course, money. Cost of living is very important. Some places in Costa Rica are more expensive than others. I think everybody knows that the parts of San Jose, Escazú, Santa Ana, Coachepelin, even Romashur, those are some more expensive parts of Costa Rica. Some of the beaches are more expensive. Even towns that are next to each other. One town can be more expensive than the other as far as your basic necessities go. Taxes are about the same throughout the country, but food prices can vary. There are towns that are near here that are more expensive than Naranjo, for example. So that's something that you should think of, as well as real estate. Certain towns are more expensive than others. Certain areas are more expensive. So the cost of living, of course, will come in to be a factor of what you're thinking about. So popular choices are basically anywhere in the Central Valley. That's going to keep you closer to the amenities. You can choose a big town, a small town, and many different climates within the Central Valley. Of course, there's the beach areas, and with 2 coastlines, that varies an incredible amount. And then Lake Arenal and the Arenal area is another popular place for expats. You know, my best advice to you is travel as much as you possibly can. You will find a spot that feels right. You may have to stay for a month, or if you have that luxury to be able to stay for a month or 2 months at different places, then that's the perfect thing to do. Sometimes people show up and they just know that's exactly where they want to be, or they know they want to be in the Central Valley because of the amenities, because of you know, the location of the airport, because of the climate, because they want to do shopping, or they know they want to be on the beach. So a lot of times you have a really good idea of where you want to be, but the more you can investigate and stay in different places, the better. How to choose a realtor. All right, so you have an area, you know where you want to live. How do you pick your realtor? The easiest, and probably your first step, would be to do an internet search of the area that you're interested in, and you know, with Costa Rica real estate. So then you would want to visit the web page or the web pages, and check them out and see if you find a property that looks interesting to you. Then make an inquiry. See how long it takes the realtor to respond. See if the realtor responds. See what, if the property is not available, then maybe ask for a list of properties that are available, that have the same, that's in the same price range or have the same, you know, sort of speculations, or that has the same specs of the house that you inquired about or of the property that you inquired about. If every property that you inquire about is not available, you may question the realtor and the seriousness of how they work. So I would definitely, that would be a red flag for me. Maybe your realtor's not active. Maybe they've got their best properties out there just so that somebody will contact them. So it would be a red flag for me. Most professionals will have testimonials where past clients, both buyers and sellers, have talked about their experience with the realtor. Definitely check out the testimonials. Facebook is a huge asset for moving to another country. That's where you're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. So pay close attention to Facebook, ask around. There's always going to be trolls that are going to say negative things about anything that they can. But if you ask enough questions and get enough feedback, then you'll have a really good idea of who you think you want to contact. It's something important for you to realize about real estate in Costa Rica is there's no exclusivity. So you as the buyer, you should be able to see any property that you want to see. If you've chosen a realtor and you would like that realtor to show you properties from another website or from another company, the realtor should be able to organize that for you with no problem. We work, I don't want to say that we work for the buyer because that makes it sound like we're trying to stick it to the seller, because that is not the case at all. Generally, when I am involved in a deal, I am the buyer and the seller realtor, and I take the responsibility very seriously. My goal is to make sure that we get the deal done and that everybody feels comfortable with it. That's my goal. So it's important that you pick the right agent. It doesn't cost you a penny. It's free. So why wouldn't you pick the best agent in the area, the agent with the best reputation, the agent that everybody recommends? You would be shooting yourself in the foot otherwise, because there's so many things that can happen after you buy. And you want somebody on your team. You want somebody that you can call and say, hey, what is this? Hey, when is my reteve due? Or hey, how do I open a bank account? GoDutch is really all about post-sale service. So we hope that you choose us. All right, so you've got your country, you've got your location, you've got your realtor. Now, what properties do you want to look at? It's important that you take a moment or some time. A lot of my clients will do a wish list where they know that they probably won't get everything on that wish list, but these are things that they would like to have. And generally, we can get most of the things on the wish list. It gives me a very good idea of what you want. Now, Costa Rica real estate is, there are no cookie cutter homes. It's not cookie cutter. You've got, I would be rich if I had a dime for every time a client said, I wish I could take that house and put it on that lot and give it that view with that amount of land and have it be 150,000. It's very difficult. You're probably not going to get everything that you want. We don't have little subdivisions where all the houses are the same and they've got the same lot sizes, and then there's, we don't have that here. So think about your life. Think about what are you going to do every day? You're probably retired. You may be newly retired. Sometimes you don't even have a hobby picked out yet. I've had clients like that. So think about, are you going to garden? Do you like to cook? Are you going to read? Do you want to create something? Those are very important questions to ask yourself so that we can find you the right property where you'll be happy, where you will have space to garden if that's what you want to do. That will be quiet so that you can read. Another important thing is transportation. Are you going to have a car? Personally, I love driving here, and a lot of my clients, well, there's been a lot of comments about my driving. I do probably drive like a Tico, but I came here when I was very young, so I learned to drive in Michigan, but I believe that my skills were perfected in Costa Rica. But some people don't want to drive. Some people refuse to drive and they don't want to drive. So we need to make sure that we have you near a bus line. Bus service varies depending on which town you are in. Grecia has excellent bus service. Sarchi is not very good. Naranjo has very good bus service, and so on and so forth. So are you going to need a car? Do you want to be in the city? Do you want to live in town? If you live in town, it's going to be hotter. It's going to be noisier, but you can walk everywhere. And for some people, that's exactly what they want. How important are views? You're not going to get very many views from town. Under certain circumstances, you might, but generally we're looking up at the ridges above the towns if you want to get views. Do you want to learn Spanish, or do you not want to learn Spanish and you just want to deal with expats? If that's the case, I would recommend that you probably stay a little closer to town. Or if you do want to learn Spanish, then maybe you would want to live in the rural area. And last but not least, are you going to live in Costa Rica year round? Or are you only going to visit? If you're going to be here, if you're going to live here year round, then you can pretty much live virtually everywhere. If you're just going to visit, then we need to think about what are we going to do with your house for the rest of the year? Maybe it should be in a gated community so that it's a little bit more protected in case somebody decides to rob you because you're not there for 6 months. Or maybe we'll need to make sure that you have neighbors that can see, or if you're going to be here year round, then like I said, it doesn't matter. So these are all questions to consider when you're looking at which property to choose. Okay, so once you've chosen the property, next comes due diligence. There are certain things with due diligence that your realtor does before they list the property. If they're a good realtor, they would collect the plot map and they would compare that with the registry information. The National Registry is online. It's available to all. It's in Spanish, so you need to speak Spanish if you're going to try to understand what's on there. The realtor should make sure that certain things correspond. The owner's information should be the same as whoever we talk to. You'll be able to see if there are any liens or easements registered in the property. The size should be the same. Otherwise, we have to do a new size on the plot if there's a certain amount of difference, and that can take some time. You know, the title may need cleaning up. There's a lot of messes in Costa Rica that previous realtors created and just sloppy lawyer work is created. So if you find a house or a property and you love it and the closing is going to be delayed a bit because we have to get things cleaned up, I mean, you know, that's not that unusual in Costa Rica. Another thing that your lawyer is going to do is they're going to calculate the closing costs. And yes, you do need a lawyer, and the lawyer should speak Spanish, of course. So closing on a property. Closing costs are approximately 3.5% of the sale price. Currency for high-priced items in Costa Rica, like cars and homes, where properties are generally in dollars, but they could also be in colones. It depends on where the seller is from, what currency, and where the money will come to. So sometimes the money never leaves the States. Sometimes the money goes to Canada. It could go to Europe. It could come to Costa Rica. It could go to South America. It could go anywhere. So be prepared for that. But it's generally, things are paid for with a transfer. A wire transfer, an international wire transfer. They're pretty simple. Part of the realtor's job is to get all the information together for you so that you know where the money's going. Now we're using the escrow accounts a lot. So the escrow account would actually be the one that would forward the money onto its ultimate destination. They would pay the realtor, they would pay the seller, and any other outstanding costs that there may be with the closing. The real estate commission is paid by the seller. It's 5% plus 13%. IVA is that's my Spanglish. It's the VAT, so it's our new service tax that we have. So it's a little under 6% for the commission. As I said before, all closings must be done by an attorney, and closings should be fast. It should be fun. They're not always fun, but at least pleasant if the realtor has done their job well. There should be no questions. Everything should be settled at closing with only the movement of the money and the signing of the documents. That's all we should have to do at the closing. So you got your house. Now it's time to settle in. Now the real work starts. This is where GoDutch comes in to be probably the best company for sure in the Central Valley. A lot of realtors, once you close and they have their commission, they're gone. They're done. You'll never see them again. That's not the case with us. I will help you do all kinds of things. Open a bank account. I'll help you get a car. If you need a remodel, I've got some great contractors. One of my favorite contractors does not speak any English, and so I help with translating. I've got electricians. I've got it. I've been here for 20 years, and I've been working real estate for 12 years, so I've gotten rid of bad connections, and I'm steadily, thankfully, collecting more good contacts. Yep, I will be your best friend for the first 2 months of home ownership, possibly longer. I still get calls from clients that bought from me years ago and asked me where to get their muffler, how to get a new muffler, or all kinds of miscellaneous things. They'll call me and say, Brooke, can you tell me what this guy's saying? And I'll have to translate. But I love it. That's one of my favorite things about my job. Okay, next I'm going to talk about rentals, and then we're going to hear from Sylvia, and Sylvia is going to talk about taxes. We hope that you enjoyed the talk. We're here for you. Here's my contact information, and I'll be happy to help you with any real estate questions that you have. So next I'm going to talk about renting. How do you pay your rent? Well, generally people pay cash. You can do a transfer. It depends on the owner. Some of the owners of the rental homes are from the United States. Some of them are from Costa Rica. Some of them are in Europe. So if they're not in Costa Rica, some people will accept PayPal. If they're here, generally they want cash, which can be a little bit problematic if your rent is high and you don't have a Costa Rica bank account yet, because you have to go to the ATM and pull it all out, and you have to pay every time you do that too. So it can be a little bit more complicated if they want cash. I definitely advise to try to get a bank account as soon as possible. I help my clients with that. When you start off, before you have any properties in Costa Rica and before you have a legal status here, when you're just here on your visa, you can get a bank account with your passport generally. And it's they usually limit you to about $1,000 a month that you can move around. Once you own a home or your legal status has changed, then it's easier for you to get a different sort of bank account. The banks are where you can move more money. The banks are going to want a lot of information. It's easier to buy a house than it is to open a bank account in Costa Rica. Other things that you might want to consider when you're thinking about purchasing a home. Insurance is not very expensive in Costa Rica, and it's not mandatory. Generally, you can get house insurance for a lot less than in the United States. What we generally have here is earthquake and fire insurance. So most of the homes here are concrete blocks, so fires are not generally a big deal. Earthquakes can happen, but the homes are built to, I think it's an 8.5 on the Richter scale, so they try very hard. We'd have very few houses that fall down when we have earthquakes, even if it's a big one. The houses are very well built here, and the builders know how to build them. So other things that you'll have to think about, you may want to have a gardener, you may want to have a maid, and both of those things are a lot less expensive here. These are all things that I help you with, and GoDutch helps with. This is part of why we're still around and why we're still here.
Most of my work is post-purchase work. I do a lot prior to make sure that we're looking at houses that you want to look at and your price range. But actually, we'll probably see more of each other after you buy. I'll take you to the bank. Generally, people need help looking for cars because not only are you in a completely different country where you don't know anybody, you probably don't speak the language. So I'll be your best friend for a couple of weeks or even a month or two after you buy. But that's part of the fun of it, is to help you get all settled in so that you have a good experience and so that you want to stay and so that you can really enjoy Costa Rica. Okay, well, I think that now we're ready to hear from Sylvia. And please get your questions ready. I'm sure that you all have a lot.
2 questions.
Thing being done for Costa Rica to implement a real estate system that tracks sales so that there is information available to see what other houses in certain areas have sold for. That's a good question. I thought it was gonna be an easy question because I thought I was gonna ask if we could track what things have sold for, which now we will be able to. But presently, no. And that is another good reason why you want to get an experienced real estate agent that's worked in the area for many years, because it's really the only way that you'll know what things in the area have sold for. The laws have changed. We used to be able to put different amounts down for how much somebody paid for a house so that we would pay less taxes. But as Sylvia is going to explain, those days are over. So it used to be that the only people that knew what a house sold for was the realtor, the lawyer, the buyer, and the seller. That's all going to change because everything is going to be everything's going to be on the National Registry now. So, good question. Okay,